the last meeting, we learned the 17th and 18th centuries art movements, and then we saw one of the art movement, the Baroque. So let's just quickly review what we learned in the last meeting about the Baroque. So the Baroque, called like the Age of Kings or the Age of Colonial Settlement. And the main point is Baroque art differs from the Renaissance. So that was the key point of this chapter. So we compared the architecture style and the sculpture styles and the painting styles between this, the Renaissance and the Baroque. And finally, we saw the feature of each art movement. So the Renaissance feature is like stillness, logicality, peace and calm, classicism, and the brightness. And the Baroque art shows motion, emotion, turbulence, grandeur, and the contrast. So we're gonna see two famous and popular Baroque artists today. So the first artist is Caravaggio. Caravaggio was an Italian painter, and his paintings combine a realistic observation of the human state, both the physical and emotional, with the dramatic use of lighting. So look at this painting. Isn't it amazing? It looks beautiful. So he picked the painful moment with Jesus Christ got the crown. And he is one of the most famous Baroque artists. So look at the beautiful lighting and the beautiful skin texture technique. So we can say he is an amazing artist.
A lot of detail.
That's right. Looks beautiful. Looks like real. So except for the technique, the painting's emotion is also very realistic. So feels like we are in the middle of the painful moment. And here is another painting. So this is Saint Thomas checking Jesus' wound with a surprised, profound face. Oh, looks very aggressive. So this is Caravaggio's another biblical episode painting. This girl is Judith, and Judith saved her people by seducing and beheading the Assyrian general Holofernes. And the same topic was depicted in the Renaissance era, which is the left painting. So this girl is the Judith. So in this painting, she looks very peaceful and calm. It is hard to believe that she is after the battle. She looks even elegant. On the other hand, the Caravaggio's painting is dramatic and dynamic with detailed description. So it is capturing the moment of the event. So we can see the difference with the same theme in a different era. And this is David with the head of Goliath. And this painting is made by Caravaggio. And this same theme made by different era, the Renaissance by Michelangelo. So even though Michelangelo and Caravaggio depicted the same David in their work of art, their Davids look totally different. How different, everyone?
Well, Caravaggio,
Caravaggio.
He's an expert in lighting, you can tell.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
uses light to express his art.
Very
And
good.
Michelangelo sculpture, he's naked. This one is half clothed.
Aha, very good. Yeah, very good, both of you. So, the Michelangelo's David is made as hero. Yes, he is a hero. And he has an idealized body because he is a hero. On the other hand, the Caravaggio's David doesn't have an, like real, ideal body, just depicted as a normal human being. Also, Caravaggio shows the moment David took the Goliath's head with unpleasant feeling. So he shows the feeling and emotion through his work of art with the strong contrast of lighting. Very good. And now let's see another Baroque artist, Rembrandt. Rembrandt was a Dutch draughtsman, painter, printmaker. He's generally considered one of the greatest visual artists in the history of art and the most important in Dutch art history. So let's see his work of art. So this is one of his painting. This Rembrandt's largest and the most famous painting was made for one of the three headquarters of Amsterdam's civic guard. These groups of civilian soldiers defended the city from attack. And Rembrandt was the first to paint all of the figures in a civic guard in action. And he has an excellent technique to capture a moment in his painting. So look at this, the wild sea in a storm. So we can see a rage of the sea, like the emotion from this painting. And he was very famous with his self-portrait style. And he settled the traditional portrait manner in terms of pose, light, and mood. Many of artists followed these portrait painting styles. So let me share a video to see his work of art in detail.
Rembrandt is in this room with us. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me.
Is incredibly present in this self-portrait from 1660. We're here in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C.
Rembrandt made the self-portrait a subject in a way that it had never been. His images of himself are so intimate. They are so carefully observed. In a sense, he teaches me how to look closely.
And how even to look at oneself with the honesty and directness that he is looking at himself with in the mirror.
We're in a room filled with Rembrandts, and if you look at the other portraits, for instance, look at the portrait of a young man, you get a sense of the social distance that would have existed in the studio when Rembrandt was painting. And this man sat with a kind of reserve, and there was a social propriety.
The young man that we see here likely commissioned the portrait and was paying Rembrandt to make something for him. So there was definitely a hierarchy there. And he's distanced too. There's all this foreground space in front of the figure that is absent here. His left elbow is in our space.
Maybe it's because Rembrandt doesn't need to flatter this sitter. And in fact, his purpose seems to be just the opposite, to find every imperfection, every wrinkle that expresses the life that this face has lived. But Rembrandt's self-portraits through his career were really of different types. There were the examples where he's showing himself as a young man, very well dressed. There are times when he's in costume with Saskia, his wife, on his knee. But then later, in self-portraits like this, you really see this introspective look.
And you feel the way that Rembrandt layered this thick paint on the face, and the rest is very loosely brushed, but the face has a sense of being really worked, the light moving across it from light to dark and light again, and then picking up folds and picking up the hair on his face.
But it's also the muscles and the changes, the subtle shifts in the architecture of that face that is being brought out by those brush strokes. I want to figure out how he's done it.
If you think about the Caravaggio-esque use of dramatic lighting, so you go from an area of stark illumination to an area of shadow, usually that area is demarcated in a very clear way. Here in Rembrandt, there's a movement in and out of light that I think adds to that emotion.
And look at the coloration as well. I'm seeing greens and yellows
Yeah.
and blues and reds and browns.
And grays.
So the intimacy is two parts. It's because of Rembrandt's own careful observation about what he's seeing, but it's also about the fact that we can feel his hand moving the brush across this surface. And so there's a kind of double intimacy.
Well, we do know that this was especially a vulnerable moment in Rembrandt's career. He had been a very famous, sought-after portrait painter in Amsterdam, but had reached too far financially. He had gone into debt, and just a year or two before this painting, he had declared bankruptcy and had to sell his assets to pay his creditors.
His wife, that he loved very much, Saskia, had died. But I think that you can step into the biographical a little too much and read this painting through the pain of those experiences. Clearly, this is a man who has lived a very complex and rich life.
As people do by the time they reach the age that Rembrandt has. So we don't really need to read the biography to know that by the time you reach 53, that one is wiser, one has experienced, one has lived through the death of loved ones. That's what life is.
And that's what Rembrandt has taken as his subject here.
How do you think? Isn't he an amazing artist? All right. So let's move on to the next art movement, the Rococo. So the age of Rococo is a development and extension of the Baroque style. The term Rococo was a play on the word Baroque, but also it refers to the French words for rocks and shells, forms that appeared as decorative motifs in architecture, in furniture, and in painting. The Rococo subjects and mood of art are slightly different from the Baroque, even though it is an extension of Baroque. So, like Baroque, Rococo is an extravagant, ornate style, but there are several points of contrast. Baroque was an art of cathedral and palaces, and on the other hand, Rococo was more intimate, suitable for the acrobatic home and the drawing room. And Baroque is large in scale, massive, dramatic, and Rococo has a smaller scale and light-hearted, playful quality. So let's see the examples. So let's compare these two interior style of the churches. The left one is from the Baroque and the right one is the Rococo. So everyone, when you see this interior styles, what's the difference?
The lighting and the detail.
Very good. Mhm. Yeah, keep talking. That's it?
There's on the second one,
Uh-huh.
it's sort of like the Vatican's picture of the hallway that extends down.
I love it. Yeah, very good. So as you can see, Baroque style is dark but grandeur, And the Rococo style is bright, feminine, and sophisticated. Yeah. And let's see the painting now. The left one is Baroque styles painting, the Caravaggio's painting, right? And the right, and the right one is the Rococo style painting. So these two paintings are well using the deep contrast of lighting, but seems different. What's the difference?
Can you ask that question again?
So can you see the difference between these two paintings? How about the emotion of these two paintings?
Okay, the right is on more detail.
More detail, which is which has like a smaller scale. Yeah,
Right, but there's different emotions in the right.
that's right. That's right. So like the left one, the Caravaggio's painting, the most of Baroque art describe the biblical episode. Also, very heavy and dark and serious. On the other hand, the Rococo's painting depicts daily life and nature of novels. And it shows light and bright. It looks very lovely. So let me share a video to see a lovely Rococo work of art. All right. So that's it for this chapter. We have a sketchbook project related to this chapter, 17th and 18th centuries, the Baroque art style. So you're gonna make a hand drawing for the sketchbook project tonight. So let's see the details. So we just learned the Baroque art styles. So we are going to apply their art styles into your hand drawing. There are 5 Baroque art features, right? Motion, emotion, turbulence, grandeur, and contrast. So please draw your hand based on 2 or 3 of Baroque art features. So you will need a sketchbook, pencil, eraser, and any color medium you have. This work can be black and white or color, or you can do it like a digitally. And please, as usual, write which Baroque art style features and apply it in your hand drawing with a short description when you post your work process in the Moodle room tonight. So let me share the examples. This hand drawing shows motion and the contrast of the Baroque art style. Oh, and this hand drawing shows motion and emotion and the contrast, right? And this hand drawing shows emotion, grandeur, and the contrast. This is not the drawing, but I took this as an example to show the motion and the turbulence with the hand. And this is this drawing shows the motion, emotion. Oh, I like this drawing. So this hand drawing shows emotion and turbulence as well. So in a different way. And this is a color pencil drawing. It shows motion, grandeur, and contrast. And these hand drawings show emotion, motion, and contrast. And this hand drawing shows grandeur and contrast. I love it. This hand drawing shows motion and emotion. And this hand drawing shows motion, emotion, turbulence, and contrast of the Baroque art style, plus creativity. Oh, looks cool. So this hand drawing shows emotion, grandeur. Also, this hand drawing definitely shows motion, emotion, turbulence, and contrast. So just like the Baroque art. Oh, and this hand drawing shows motion and emotion. And this hand drawing shows motion and emotion, contrast. This hand drawing shows emotion, grandeur, contrast. So that's it. So as you can see, it's easy to add the features of the Baroque art style into your hand drawing. Any question about this sketchbook project? No?